Hola, mis estudiantes, y bienvenidos a una lección sobre gustar y verbos como gustar. So you've probably already had some experience in dealing with the very basics of gustar and saying things like me gusta and te gusta, but now it's time to learn more about gustar, how to talk about what different people like, etc. So let's start with a little bit of review of what you hopefully already know or is already familiar regarding gustar. So let's take these two possible expressions, me gusta and me gustan, and let's see what fits for each situation. As in número uno, would it be me gusta los deportes or me gustan los deportes? Well, hopefully you remember that gustar does not mean to like, but it means to be pleasing. So for that número uno, how many things are pleasing? Well, it's more than one because it's los deportes. So you want the plural version of the expression. Me gustan los deportes. Literally, sports are pleasing to me. Dos, me gusta o me gustan leer revistas y hablar con amigos en mi tiempo libre. Well, think about this one. You're dealing with leer revistas y hablar con amigos, both of which are infinitives. Infinitives are always singular. Even if you have a list of 100 infinitives, they're treated in a singular way. So given that, me gusta leer revistas y hablar con amigos en mi tiempo libre, since leer and hablar are infinitivos. Número 3. Me gusta o me gustan el fútbol y el baloncesto. The correct answer is me gustan with an N, el fútbol y el baloncesto, because plural things are pleasing. Both soccer and basketball are pleasing to me. Número 4. Me gusta o me gustan levantarme a las 10 de la mañana. It is pleasing to me to get up at 10 in the morning. It's also foreign to me to get up at 10 in the morning, but the correct answer is me gusta levantarme a las 10 de la mañana. It is pleasing to me because, again, we have an infinitive, levantar. It happens to be reflexive, getting myself up. Infinitives are singular, so me gusta levantarme a las 10 de la mañana. Bien, so having had that little bit of review, let's continue talking about gustar. As I reminded you a moment ago, gustar means to be pleasing. And when we use gustar, usamos el objeto indirecto. We always use an indirect object with gustar. And remember, the indirect objects are me, te, le, nos, os, les. So here's an example. Me gusta mirar películas. It is pleasing to me to watch movies. That to me part is the me. That's the objeto indirecto. Les gustan las enchiladas. Enchiladas are pleasing to them. The les is the indirect object, meaning to them. Nos gusta hablar español. It is pleasing to us to speak Spanish. The nos part is the indirect object, and it means to us. Nos gusta hablar español. Something is always pleasing to somebody, and that's why we use an indirect object with gustar, because indirect objects tell us to whom something happens or is done. Bien. Here's some errores graves to watch for. I hesitate to share these with you because I don't want you to imitate them, but they're so common that I think it's worth it to point them out. So these examples on this slide are of things that you should never say or write or hear or look at in Espanol. Here's one. Yo gusto. Oh, mercy. Gustar is to be pleasing. So yo gusto would mean I am pleasing. We usually don't talk about ourselves pleasing in that way. Yo me gusta. We never put yo before me gusta. It is just me gusta. If you want to emphasize that it's about you, I'll show you a trick for that later. Yo me gusto. Oh, good grief. I am pleasing to myself. Don't go around talking like that or you won't have any friends. And you will have a Spanish professor having a nervous breakdown, ¿verdad? So watch for these three and make sure you don't commit these common errors, errores graves. Bien. So digging in a little more to gustar, and we of course want to be able to deal with it in presente y pretérito. So let's look at some examples. Le gusta el chocolate. Chocolate is pleasing to him or to her. Eh? But in the pretérito, le gustó el chocolate. Like ayer, yesterday. Yesterday, the chocolate was pleasing to him or to her. So you see that we have gusta in the presente and gustó in the pretérito. And we're just using regular AR endings there for presente y pretérito. Nothing too surprising, hopefully. Let's look at another example. ¿Te gustan las clases de matemáticas? Are math classes pleasing to you? There's your gustan in el presente. Think for a second about what it'll be in the pretérito. What is that third person plural in pretérito for an AR verb? ¿Te gustaron las clases de matemáticas el año pasado? Were math classes pleasing to you last year? And these are the common forms you see with gustar in presente and pretérito. Probably 95% of the time you'll see one of these used. Gusta, gustó, gustan, o gustaron. So it's worth being really familiar with them because this is what you almost always are going to be dealing with. Bien, so let me share with you my little formula for constructing sentences with gustar so you can talk about what is pleasing to people. Bien, here it is. We'll break it down a little bit. The first part of the formula is in parentheses. This is an optional part of the formula, but it helps you to be really specific about to whom something is pleasing. It can even help you to really emphasize, like saying, I like it, as opposed to somebody else. We have a mí, to me, with an accent mark, notice. A ti, to you. Or you can have all kinds of examples like a él, a ella, a usted. You could use someone's name like a Rosa. You could say something is pleasing to us, a nosotros. But notice that always, if you use that optional emphatic part, it starts with a. Why? Because things are always pleasing to people, and a means to. Then you have your objeto indirecto, and hopefully by now you know what your indirect objects are in Spanish. You should have those memorized. Me, te, le, nos, os, les. And then you have your form of gustar. And like we talked about a moment ago, the common forms you'll be dealing with there will be gusta o gustan in the presente, and gustó o gustaron in the pretérito. I really suggest that you keep this formula out in front of you, write it down, make yourself a little sign that you carry around because you'll be working with gustar a lot in this chapter and you need to know the formula in order to be successful. The good news is that once you know the formula and can apply it, you'll be a pro at this and you'll be able to whip these sentences out all the time and sound like you know what you're talking about, which is always a good thing, ¿verdad? Let's look at some more ejemplos. A ellos les gusta cantar. I followed the formula exactly. I used the optional part, a ellos, to them. Then I had the indirect object that also means to them. And then gusta, singular verb, cantar. Literally, it is pleasing to them to sing. In English, we would probably say they like to sing. But I encourage you not to think of it in that English way. Think of it in the pleasing way because that's how it's structured in Spanish. And that will help support your accuracy with this a lot. A mí me gusta cenar en un restaurante. Again, I used the optional part of the formula, a mí. I used an indirect object to agree, me, and then gusta cenar. Dining is pleasing to me. In other words, it is pleasing to me to eat dinner in a restaurant. In English, we would say, I like to eat dinner in a restaurant. Más ejemplos. A los estudiantes les gustan las siestas. To the students, naps are pleasing. Notice that this time we have a los estudiantes. Again, I'm using that optional part of the formula because I want to be very clear. I want you to know who I'm talking about. Then I have the indirect object, les, and it's gustan this time because plural things are pleasing to them. Siestas, naps. Who doesn't like naps, verdad? Nos gusta bailar en las discotecas. Dancing in discotecas is pleasing. That's why the verb is singular, gusta, and the nos is for to us. This time I didn't use the optional part. If I did, it would have been a nosotros nos gusta bailar en las discotecas. But I didn't feel like being emphatic in this particular sentence, so I didn't take advantage of that option. It is pleasing to us to dance in discotheques. In other words, we like to dance in discotheques, eh? I can tell you all kinds of fun stories about Spanish discotecas, but that'll have to be in a different presentation, ¿vale? Bien, la cortesía. You can use gustar to be very courteous, and these are some neat expressions that you can memorize. ¿Te gustaría tomar un cafecito conmigo? In this case, instead of te gusta, we've turned it into te gustaría. And that's like saying, would you like, would it be pleasing to you to drink a little coffee with me? And this is just an expression you can memorize for when you want to be very helpful or very polite. If you work in a store or in a restaurant, being able to ask questions like, le gustaría, in the formal sense, might be very helpful to you in communicating with the people you're surrounded by. Otro ejemplo. Me gustarían unas vacaciones en Cancún en marzo. Some vacations in Cancún would be pleasing to me in March. I think that would be pleasing to everybody, ¿verdad? But it's a plural because vacaciones is always plural in Spanish, so that's why it's me gustarían. ¿Eh? They would be pleasing to me. Otro ejemplo, ¿les gustaría cancelar el próximo examen? Would it be pleasing to you all to cancel the next test? No, I know you'd be devastated because then you couldn't show off your knowledge, ¿verdad? Les gustaría. Would it be pleasing to you all? So don't lose sleep over these courteous forms, but I just thought it was a nice place to share them with you in case they might be helpful in what you're dealing with. And they can certainly help to up the level of your writing for what we're doing in this chapter as well. Bien. That's how it works. That's how we deal with gustar, to talk about what is pleasing to other people. And it's not the only verb that works this way. So you get a lot of bang out of this formula. There are some other verbs that follow this exact same formula, like aburrir, which is to bore. Things are boring to people. So we can use the same structure like we use with gustar. Encantar. When you like something very much, when you love something. And I'm not talking about loving your spouse here or loving your grandmother. I'm talking about when we say like, oh, I love puppies, or oh, I love Kit Kat bars. That's when we use encantar. Okay? And it's the same structure as gustar because it's enchanting to someone. Again, that structure with the indirect object. We have faltar, to lack or to need. Fascinar, to fascinate or to like very much. Importar, to be important to or to matter. A really common expression in Spanish can be to say, no me importa. Literally, it doesn't matter to me. It's fine, whatever. So if someone asks you if you want to do one thing or another, hey, no me importa. It doesn't matter. I'm flexible. Interesar, to be interesting to or to interest. Molestar, to bother or to annoy. And finally, quedar, to be left over, to remain, or to fit. And you'll get some good practice with all of these expressions when you're dealing with your tarea, and hopefully you'll become more familiar and well-versed with them then. But keep following the formula. Your little sign with the gustar formula will apply to every single one of these infinitives as well. So it'll be super important to you. Más ejemplos de estos. A Lía le fascinan las lenguas. Languages are fascinating to Lía. Al profesor le encanta leer. Reading is enchanting to the professor. A nosotros nos interesa la gramática. Grammar is interesting to us. A los estudiantes les quedan $5 después de comprar los libros. I'm afraid this one might be true. $5 are remaining to the students after buying the books, ¿verdad? A mí me molestan las personas perezosas. Lazy people are a bother to me. Lazy people annoy me. Okay? And you can see with every single one of these that we used the formula. So look down again at your formula that you wrote down. We have someone, indirect object, then the verb in the third person, and then the thing that is actually pleasing, fascinating, enchanting, etc. I'm just following that same gustar formula. Something you'll never do is a sentence like this. Rosa le gusta estudiar. It has to be a Rosa le gusta estudiar. First of all, because that's the formula, that's how the formula works, you have to memorize it. And the logic behind it is that it is pleasing to Rosa. And so the a expresses the part that means to Rosa. Okay, muy bien. Entonces, amigos, let's start to get in some practice. I'm going to reveal some prompts and images to you. Check out each one, pause the presentation, write a strong sentence using the formula. For now, if you have the formula out in front of you, that's probably a really good idea until you're totally comfortable and have it memorized. So the idea behind this prompt is that you want to express that playing the violin is enchanting to the young ladies. Playing the violin is enchanting to the young ladies. Another option would be to say music is enchanting to them if you're more comfortable with that vocabulary. Music is enchanting to them. Dos. And note that this sentence is going to be in the pretérito. This one will be in the past, and it's about washing hands. Washing hands was important to the doctor. Keep in mind your formula. Washing hands was important to the doctor. Tres. This sentence will be in the presente. Shoes are enchanting to my friend. Shoes are enchanting to my friend. Cuatro. The news, and the news is plural in Spanish, like it is in English. The news are boring to Jose. The news are boring to Jose. Poor Jose. He does look very bored, ¿verdad? Another example. The chocolates were pleasing to us. ¿Tienen hambre ahora? The chocolates were pleasing to us. And finally, número seis, waking up or getting up is a bother to you. Waking up is a bother or an annoyance to you. Now, let's check out some possible answers. There's a little variety possible here. So if you came up with something that was different, especially in terms of the vocabulary, you can always double check with me to make sure you're on the right track. But here's the idea with each of these. For each one, the optional part of the formula, I put in parentheses. So if you included that, great. But if you didn't include it, make sure you didn't include any of it. Okay, so for número uno, you could have a las señoritas les encanta tocar música, or you could just have les encanta tocar música. Okay, one or the other. Al médico le importó lavarse las manos, or le importó lavarse las manos. And I'll let you go on checking to make sure that you followed the formula for each one, that the verb is in the proper form, being in presente o pretérito, singular o plural. Bien. One more view of dealing with gustar and gustar-like verbs, just a different view here of the formula for you. A mí me gusta, a ti te gusta, a él le gusta, a ella le gusta, etc. Okay, unas ideas para ir pensando. Y por fin, a mí me gustan las personas que dicen lo que piensan, pero por encima de todo, me gustan las personas que hacen lo que dicen. Bien, I'll let you think about that one a little bit. Pero muchas gracias a todos. You're getting some good practice with your tarea with this, but certainly if you have questions or doubts, no duden en comunicarse conmigo. Muchas gracias y que tengan un buen día. Hasta la próxima. Chao.